Most of us never learned how to train our brains, which is why most of us needlessly settle, struggle, and worse, suffer. My name is Chris Doris, and I want to make brain training mainstream. This is my series, Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. I'm interviewing badasses from all walks of life on what mental toughness means to them and their unique approaches to strengthening their minds. Hey everybody, welcome back to Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. I am your host, Chris Doris, and our guest today, his name is David Wood. David was recommended actually by one of our former guests, Stephen McGee. And you can count on the fact that if Stephen McGee is recommending somebody as a Tough Talks guest, then this is going to be a potent and good time. A powerful and valuable dialogue is ensuing here, folks. So let me read a little bit of David's bio. David plays for real. That's actually his company is Play for Real. Playforreal.life is his website. So David plays for real. He's a former consulting actuary to Fortune 100 companies such as Sony, Proctor & Gamble, and Exxon. So he left his cushy Park Avenue job 20 years ago to explore both the outer world and his own inner world. David says, when you're 10,000 feet above the Himalayas, hanging from a piece of cloth, you see life differently. We're going to have to ask him to elaborate upon that. I'm presuming he's either a paraglider or a hang glider or something like that. But I want to hear all about that, so we'll check in with him on that. From his unique vantage point, David has now coached thousands of hours spanning 20 years in 12 countries around the globe. At the individual level, he helps high-performing entrepreneurs, executives, and leaders to play for real in their own growth, in their relationships, and at work. By integrating the principles of real truth, real daring, and real caring. So truth, daring, and caring, they become the leaders they themselves would follow. So we're definitely going to ask him to please elaborate on that real truth, real daring, and real caring. And at the corporate level, he helps companies improve performance and retention, of course, using the same methodologies. Play for real is something we all get to define for ourselves. To David, it means living with even more truth, more daring, and more caring than he has ever before. The real question is, what will playing for real mean to you? Well, let's find out how to answer that question for ourselves. David is here. Let's go find him. And here he is, David Wood. David, thank you so much for making time today. How are you?
Thank you, Chris. I'm good. I'm glad I wasn't fully prepped for this so I can be more spontaneous because we had a little scheduling mix up. So I am now ready and available for us to say profound things.
Amen to that. Well, then let's rock and roll, man. So you and I were introduced by a former guest of mine, Stephen McGee, who we both agree is an amazing human. But you and I have spoken for probably a total of maybe 4.5 minutes. So we haven't really met. We just talked yesterday for a second, testing out our technology here. But I really studied your stuff, your website in particular, and it's pretty it's amazing actually. And I have some questions that to help us get started in our conversation today. And the first thing is, and I'm amazed that I'd never heard this before, and this is astounding. You say in one of your videos on your website that 90% of people die with regret. That's amazing in a sad as hell way.
Yeah. Well, you know that 87.7% of statistics are made up. That's a joke.
That's great.
So I have no hard data on this, and I don't think anybody does, because when you Google it, you find there's a nurse, Bonnie, someone wrote a book, The Regrets of the Dying, and she talked to people as they're passing, and she put it into a book what she found, and that's the book that everybody quotes.
What is the book?
I think it's called Five Regrets of the Dying, or something like that.
Okay.
And I haven't read that book, but whenever you look for information, when you look for data, when I want to get some hard research on what are the top regrets and what happens, there's nothing out there. Like, no one's doing studies on this, but I think it's generally accepted that when we are on our deathbed, for most of us, there's going to be stuff that we wish we'd done. There's going to be mistakes we wish we hadn't made. And my job, my mission, is to have us live now so that those regrets are minimized.
Yeah, right. So hence the name of your company, Play for Real.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. So tell us
I
about that.
believe, I believe that life is a game. I've always been into play,
Yeah.
but I don't mean play in just a frivolous, frolicking down the sidewalk and through the flowers sense. I mean, life is the ultimate game there is. And if it is a game, if we do accept that viewpoint, then wouldn't you want to play the best game you can?
Yeah.
Now, not everyone thinks life's a game. There's some people say, "Oh, well, no, I lost a child a couple of years ago. That's not a game." Well, I would counter that it's a game where the stakes are high.
Wow. Okay.
A game, the definition of a game is over there is better than over here. That's how you define a game. And we have that in life. We want more money. We want deeper connection with our partner. We want a deeper sense of fulfillment. That's a game. So let's play. Don't take it too seriously. We want to be in a state of flow, but let's play for real, as if it really matters how we play the game.
Wow. That's so funny because I actually recorded an interview yesterday with another guest named Dr. Fred Blum, and he said the exact same. He gave me the exact same definition of a game.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm having a little deja vu over here. So another thing that you'd mentioned that really got my attention on your website, or actually in one of your videos, was that there are 3 keys to high performance in life and work. And I'd really love to go slowly through them. Okay, because I think that there's incredible symmetry between the work that you're doing and the work that I do. And this is really exciting to me because I think that we use different language about some of the same stuff. And by virtue of that, I think this conversation is going to be really valuable for the folks that are watching and or listening. So could you tell us about that? The 3 keys to high performance in life and work.
Well, I can only speak from my experience and the experience of my clients. And I've probably coached a couple of thousand people by now. And what I found when I looked back at my values and I looked back at what made my life better, the ultimate thing is connection. I think if we don't have connection with our family, our friends, our coworkers, and ourself, then life's pretty meaningless. So the ultimate thing I discovered is we're really after deeper connection to have a more fulfilling life and even to have business success. You want deeper connection. Now, how do you get to deeper connection? The 3 values that I've found are more truth, which speaks to authenticity and integrity, more daring, which is about our courage and the risks that we take, and more caring, which is how well do we nurture ourselves, our relationships, and our business.
So can we go through those?
Please.
Yeah, perfect. So more truth now, and you articulated it slightly differently when you said real promises in one of the videos, but it's the same thing. Promises.
I think promises is a subset. It's a part of truth. So in my life, when I'm willing to risk more by revealing more, and I think, mental toughness is really the core of your podcast. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, it is. This is Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. That's right.
Yeah. And I've been thinking about it since our conversation yesterday. And I wonder if vulnerability is the new toughness.
Interesting.
So I find when I'm willing to reveal my fears and my desires and be more honest with people and have more truth, it's a risk.
Yes.
It's a risk. Yes. I might lose the relationship. They might go, "Whoa, dude, you're too intense," and they're gone. But other people say, "Oh, I like this. I like that you're telling me that you're scared right now. I like that you're telling me straight up that you want my business and you'll do what it takes." So I find when I take a risk and I reveal more, I get deeper connection with the people that I'm meant to be connecting with. and I sometimes lose the people that I shouldn't be connecting with.
So that is that sounds really it could be totally contrary to a lot of the conditioned beliefs, right? That we've picked up along the way about, like, from the scarcity mentality about avoiding offending, avoiding managing other people's impressions of you. But think about,
Yeah,
right, how many messages all of us have been bombarded with through the duration of our lives about how fucking important it is to manage other people's opinions of us.
that's right. I'll give you an example. I coached a client yesterday and he wants some money from a company. They owe him
Right.
money, and he wants more work from them, so he doesn't want to rock the boat. But he really needs the cash this week,
Yeah.
and they're a week late. So he's in this dilemma. Do I speak the truth and take a risk and say, I actually need the cash. Can you make it happen today? Or does he play small and hide who he really is and just hope that the money's going to come eventually and that he'll get more work with this company that he's not being totally honest with?
So I hear maybe two things, and clarify for me that there's two things that maybe he's scared of. One is that it might be embarrassing to say to this company that he needs the money.
Yep.
And two, pissing them off, so they'd say, "Get out of here, man. We're not doing any more work."
Yeah, you're too much work, chill, right? That could happen. Have you ever worried that you're too much for somebody?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. So
So,
okay, go ahead, please go.
so I didn't tell him what to do. That's not my job, but I
Right.
helped him look at, does he want a relationship with this company that could continue to go in that fashion where they're constantly paying him late? Or does he want to speak his truth and just say, hey, the fact is, I could really use the cash, and what can we do to make it happen today? And I find that often when I speak my truth, regardless of the results I get, I feel better about myself. I like myself more because I've spoken the truth and I've gone for what I want. And that's really what I want for people. The results we get are a bonus. The fact that I think he's getting paid today,
Yeah.
that's a bonus. I want him to feel good about himself by being himself.
Yeah. So, as you're speaking, I'm thinking that there's maybe several levels to the ability to even speak your truth. And what we're discussing now is courage. But even before the courage, it's like you have to even know what the hell your truth is.
Right. We're so, I've been raised by society, I think, to be so conditioned to not even be aware of some of my desires that I might have that might be risky. Or say I'm dating a woman, there might be things that I want sensually or sexually that I'm like, I don't even want to think about them because you can't speak them. Or with my boss, there might be things I just know it might be an issue if I speak up. So you're right, identifying really what is my truth is probably the first and most important thing I can do with my clients. Let's at least find out what that is. Then you can decide if you're willing to take a risk and speak it.
Wow. So can you tell us a little bit about the mechanics of how a person becomes, whether it's how you help your clients or it's how any of us become conscious of what our truth is, because it is buried, right, beneath layers of conditioned beliefs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that. It's important to be appropriate.
Right. Right.
It's whatever that means. It's important to be politically correct. Right.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're so conditioned. How do we know what the real truth is underneath? I find often when I ask, like when the client's talking to me, say yesterday, he's telling me about this situation, I can hear the truth because he's not worried about telling me. So he's telling me, I need cash, but I don't want to tell them that. I want it today, but I don't want to rock the boat. So the truth is coming out often when you're speaking to a third party, like it could be a coach or a therapist or maybe even a friend. It comes out and hopefully they can hear that and parrot it back to you so that you can get it. And another way, a lot of people use journaling to write down, and in the journal, you're often willing to tell the journal, if you do stream consciousness, eventually your truth.
So that's really fascinating. So like if someone doesn't have a coach, then they could at least use paper.
Yep.
Right, as sort of a surrogate coach. So
Yeah.
because there's no one listening to it. So you're saying that's an effective way to just write whatever you're experiencing, right? And hopefully from that you can discover what it is that you're afraid of.
Yes. And I've used the Byron Katie, the work of Byron Katie a lot. I spend a lot of time with Katie and I use it with my clients. And she has a sheet called Judge Your Neighbor. And you can download it for free on the internet. And you pick someone that you've got.
You say it's called Judge Your Neighbor?
Judge Your Neighbor, yeah. And you'll pick somebody that you're having an issue with and you'll write down all your judgments and your thoughts, and it can help you identify what you're really thinking. Now, I don't know if I'd call this your truth, but let's call it a preliminary truth. That's at least what you're believing and what's going on in your head. And then she has a process that I find very powerful for busting open those negative beliefs.
You said, I want to get back to Byron and Katie, because you mentioned in an email exchange you and I had that you spent a month with her. I really want to hear about that, but I don't want to interrupt where we're at right now. We're talking about truth, daring, and caring.
Well, we're at truth, and you mentioned promises. I think promises is a really fun subset of truth. If you're going to, when we speak in our society, we don't actually take ourselves seriously. We say, I'll see you at 7. The way it works is we don't really mean that. We mean I'll head towards that, and if that happens, it'll be amazing. But we kind of we don't take ourselves that seriously. Even if we say I'm going to go to the gym on Thursday, we don't really mean it. So we don't hold ourselves accountable to what we say, and often. If I make a promise to you, I say, all right, let's talk at 12. This is a business setting, so it's a bit different. A lot of people show up right at 12, but a lot of people come at 10 past. They just got, sorry, I got caught up. Right?
Yeah.
No, fine. It's working. It works in our society, but generally, I find if I make a promise to someone, if I say something and then I don't do it, they trust me less. They trust me a little less.
Amen.
And I trust myself a little less. So wouldn't it be wonderful if we all started noticing what we say? I'm leading a training tomorrow for a company in Geneva about noticing what we say and being more careful with it and saying, I'll see you around 7, or I'm going to aim for 7. But if you say, I'll see you at 7, play a game called getting there at 7 o'clock and, set your alarms. My phone doesn't go off with an alarm at 6 o'clock. There's no way I'm getting there by 7. So that's real promises is a way you can play with being more truthful. And I just think, not because it's right or it's moral, just because I find it works better, that I like myself more and others like me more if what I say actually happens.
So that's a huge clarification that you just made. Not because it's like moral, right? I don't want to make and keep my promises because I should.
Right.
Right. But it's because I'm more powerful. You're reminding me of a couple of things as you're speaking about this. And one is Don Miguel Ruiz in his book, The Four Agreements. Mm-hmm. And one of the agreements is be impeccable with your word. Mm-hmm. And another is some work that I did with a former coach of mine whose name is Steve Hardison, who is Mr. Integrity. You're reminding me we're talking about integrity.
Yep.
Is doing what you said you're going to do. Is keeping your promises or keeping your word. And he says that there's no contract on the planet stronger than a person's word. Right. And again, it's not important to keep your word out of obligation. That's not the point that you just made. It's because we're much more effective.
Yeah. I've been spending the last 20, 30 years trying to step out of right and wrong. Step out of this is the way you should do it, or this is the moral point of view. I think that's a load of crap, actually.
Good.
I'm more interested in what's workable, what has us have a really good life. And I've found that more truth leads me to more connection and me liking myself more. So I espouse that, and I encourage people in that direction wherever I can.
I love that. So let's go to number 2. Daring. More daring.
Yeah. And this ties in nicely with truth because it takes daring to tell your truth. Mm-hmm. So I was at a retreat last year, and I noticed after the retreat that I took 4 big risks. One of them was to tell a woman that I was interested in her and to ask her out on a date. I asked her if she wanted to go to Colombia with me.
That's a hell of a date.
Yeah,
That's a solid date.
that was a big risk. I also asked an Oscar-winning movie producer if I could shadow him on his next shoot, which was a big deal. I just met the guy, so it was like a really unreasonable request. And I pitched Jack Canfield on writing a book together. And I know Jack Canfield, he's got to get 1,000 pitches a year.
Yeah,
so I knew that. But the opportunity...
Jack Canfield, he has sold more books than anybody in history, isn't that correct?
Yeah, that sounds right. Chicken Soup for the Soul series and Success Principles. Yeah. But the opportunity came up and it felt right. And so I did it. It's like, even though this is Jack and this is crazy, I'm like... So there were 4 things I did at that event. And I realized later that I liked myself more because I took those risks, because they felt true to me.
Does that have anything to do with the outcome of those risks?
I think the outcome is completely separate. They're 2 different conversations. Even if I get a no to all 4 of those things, and I got a no from Jack, I got a no from the woman. I pitched someone I wanted to coach, someone I thought was amazing. I said, I really want to coach you. I got a no from her, and I got a yes from the producer. So I got 1 out of 4. But I realized even if I get 4 no's, I feel good about myself because I did the right thing. I put it out there. I took a risk. I risked the rejection. If I get a yes, that's a bonus. But the real win is feeling good about ourselves because we didn't play small. So I'm not going to regret that conference. I'm not going to regret those 4 invitations. I would regret not making the invitations.
Oh, that's cool. I love that a lot. I love that.
Yeah.
So you know what? Yeah, man, I love what you're saying, dude, because one of the things I think I hate the most in life is oh man, I wish I had I wish I'd.
Yeah.
I hate walking away from situations. Like I wish I'd approached him. Like I wish I had. I feel like, oh God, dude, why didn't you? I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that.
I was once in a hotel, locked out of my room at midnight. And I went to the reception to get a new key, and I recognized John Gray from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Yeah.
Just sitting there talking to friends by the fireplace. And I'd actually been trying to track him down for 6 months to ask him for an endorsement for my book.
Oh, wow.
And here he is. And after 5 minutes of lurking and feeling like an idiot, I left.
He's stalking. Yeah, just kind of pacing back and forth.
I left.
Acting like you're doing something else.
Right.
He's like waiting for a phone call or some shit.
I felt like such a jerk. So I left. And the 3rd time I said to my girlfriend, I just walked away from John Gray. I can't believe I just walked away. I said it 3 times.
Yeah.
She finally said, well, go back out there. So at 1 a.m., I got dressed again, went back to the lobby. He's still there talking with friends. And I went up to him and I said, my name's David Wood. I'm a big fan. If I can support you in any way, I'd be happy to. And that led directly to me being nominated to the Transformational Leadership Council. So now, once or twice a year, I get to go and hang out with John Gray, Jack Canfield, Don Miguel Ruiz is a member. I haven't met him yet. But that all came through me taking a risk and daring. And so I'm the encouragement to take that risk, dare, and hey, maybe it doesn't work out the way you wanted it to, but you know that you did the right thing.
Well, let's see if we can explore for fun, because it's all a game.
Right, we're playing.
Yeah, you're damn right we are. The organics, I don't know if that's the right word, but whatever, or the mechanics behind why people don't take the dare. Like, okay, so let's just use your example, John Gray. Like that's synchronicity. The dude's sitting there in a hotel that you've been looking for 6 years. Like, come on, that's life going here, spoon fed. Right. So, but what is it? Let's really break it down as clearly as we can. Why didn't you go? Why were you pacing around? Why did you go, no, and walk away?
Right.
What
You know what?
exactly were you afraid of?
You know, initially, the problem was finding my truth. Like, what was the truth? And the only truth I could find is, you're famous. Would you touch me and maybe someone that'll rub off?
Hmm.
Like, that's what was true for me. And I just couldn't see that going over very well.
So, like attributing power to him? Were you
Yeah, I think I was just starstruck. And
were you
uh,
thinking about any scenario like if I go talk to him that something weird could happen?
oh,
Like,
yeah. Well, firstly, he's talking with a bunch of friends.
okay,
So
so they're all going to hear you. So,
I have to go up and stand there and
yeah, yeah,
to a bunch of seated people by the fireplace and interrupt them and
yes.
say I'm a fan. So I'm worried that he's going to just blow me off, or I'm going to feel like I made a fool of myself, or something like that. But what gave me access to going up and speaking to him is realizing that I am a fan. I really admire what he's accomplished, and so I was happy to go up and just share that. And if that's all that happened, I let go of any kind of outcome that had to happen from it. And as it turned out, uh, one thing led to another, and I said, I've got an email list, and I'd be happy to promote something if you'd like me to do that. And he said, what are you doing for lunch tomorrow? So I
Yeah,
never
right.
imagined what could have come out of it, but I let
Um,
go of attachment
mm.
to the outcome.
Wait, you just said something. You said, I never imagined that something like that would come out of it.
Never.
And not then, but I bet you do now.
Well, you know, I play the long game in a lot of things. When people see someone successful, I'm fortunate enough to have had a lot of success in my life, and people just think, well, everything I do must just work. No, my God, I do 1,000 things that don't work out. I can make 100 phone calls and only have one of them produce some kind of an outcome.
Hmm.
So I think I'm an actuary. I used to be an actuary. So I play with statistics and the odds. And I just think you've got to dare 100 times sometimes for two or three of those things to pay off.
Mm,
That's the
yeah.
game you play. You can't wait for the ones that you know are going to work. You'll be waiting a long time.
Yeah, Steve Chandler says that yes lives in the land of no, and your friend Byron Katie says that everybody could have everything they want if they were only willing to ask 1,000 people.
Right.
So I can virtually guarantee that every person that is either watching this video blog or listening to it in podcast form, at some point in the next 24 hours, will have the option of demonstrating daring, or what would you call the opposite of that?
Oh, you're playing small.
Okay, great. So they'll have that option,
Yeah.
right? Give them a little piece of advice. Like that'll have like what that if you could just say,
Yep.
and it's even if it's something we've already
I
said.
got it. I got it.
Or
On your deathbed, are you going to look back on this moment and be glad you didn't go for it?
that is a mic drop right there. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, that's solid. How are you going to want to look back on this moment when you're on your deathbed?
Yeah.
What's going to have you go, oh, yeah, I crushed that. Even if you didn't get what you wanted.
Right. So you asked me what stopped me.
Yeah.
What stopped me? I think what stopped me from going up to John Gray is attachment to the outcome. I was attached that it had to like produce something great. When
Mm.
I could let go and say, as long as I just speak into him and say hello, that'll be a win. Then I was able to walk up to him.
I'm writing down the power of not caring about getting what you want, which is a paradox.
Right. If you can have the win be that you spoke, have
Ooh.
that be the win. Your
Oh,
own
okay.
integrity.
Let's say that. Please say that again.
Yes. Have the win be that you spoke and that you said what you wanted. You spoke your truth.
There's so much freedom.
That's
That's badass. Yeah, like that's the success story.
yes. That's the
Then
success
you
story.
run away and goes, I asked him. And your girlfriend says, well, what do you say? You're like, oh shit, I don't even remember. Oh,
Right.
I have to go back because I got too excited because I just asked.
Yeah.
I
That's
didn't
the
even
key.
stick around long enough to give him a chance to answer. I was just so happy that I
Yeah. So that's playing for real.
Mm.
That was my insight that when we are speaking our truth, that's the win. The bonus is some great results. Like the bonus is I get to be at the Transformational Leadership Council hanging out with these people. That's the bonus. The real win is I'm going to be me. And I want everyone listening to this to take a big step in the direction of being you. Take a risk. Maybe it doesn't go as well as you want it to. But you spoke up.
That is so beautiful. I couldn't love that more. All right, let's go to number 3.
Okay.
Caring. More caring. Yeah. And again, just to remind everybody, what we're talking about right now are, you say that, in order to really crush it in life, in life and work, the big key is deeper connections. 3 great ways of establishing deeper connections are, what's the word? I know truth, but it's like being more truth.
More truth.
Say more. More
Yep.
Truth, more daring, and now let's talk about more caring.
Yeah. So as an Australian male, I think my way of approaching life was very yang. If we talk about yin and yang, yin being the more feminine and still, and yang being penetrating, making things happen in life, I was very yang. I would go and lean into any fear. I'm afraid of heights, so I paraglide, fly over the Himalayas solo. I'm afraid of abandonment, so I would go into open relationships and date a woman who's dating other men. I was like, let's see how far I can push myself. So that's the daring, and I'm all for that. But I found that there's a limit to how far that can take you. And if you're doing all truth and all daring, but you're not caring for your body, caring for your emotions and your psyche, and knowing when to say, hey, that's too much. I'm pushing myself too hard. I need to take a week off, or I need to get out of this relationship. I don't need to be more daring in this. I need to be more caring. So there's the yin, the yang of going for it, and then the yin of knowing when to nurture your own body and your own relationships, and even nurture your business and just take care of your systems and your taxes instead of going out there creating new wonderful things in the world.
All of that together sounds quite relaxing, to be honest with you, even though it does take courage to articulate your truth, and that's part of the daring, right? And taking the risk. But the thing is, you just took the fear out of it in the daring part by saying that the win is simply making the move and being and not like and letting hey, if I get what I want, sweet. If I don't, I still won.
Yeah, that's true. And the caring part is knowing when to not be daring.
Okay, so the caring part is knowing. Oh, that's an interesting comment. The caring part is knowing when not to be daring.
Yeah.
Knowing when not to be daring. That's interesting. So how do you know?
I don't always know. In fact, in this one relationship I was in, I kept being daring. I was so daring. I even bought a ticket for my partner and her husband to go on a vacation. I was leaning into it, but my body couldn't take it. I wasn't sleeping. I was going into anxiety and depression. So I learned the hard way, hey, that was too much for you. You've got to know your limits. So I ended up getting out of that relationship, and now I'm a big fan of monogamy because it's just easier for my nervous system.
That's great. That's so great.
Yep. And with paragliding, I wanted to be daring. So I went and got the training, and I went and flew over the Himalayas. I flew in Colombia, and then I had a couple of accidents. And I realized, okay, I've had 100 hours of flying. I think I've done the daring thing. I'm going to take care of this body, and I'm going to stay on the ground.
Oh, really? So you're done?
I think so. It might change in another 20 years, but I think for now, I want to be caring and nurturing of the body. But at the time, it was right for me to be daring and really go for it. And I touched the sky.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that, and I'm glad you brought that up because and this is we're shifting gears a little bit, which is, you mentioned how soaring 10,000 feet above the Himalayas, hanging from a piece of cloth changes the way you see things. So even though as an expression of caring, as an act of caring, you're like, yeah, I think I'm good now. I think I'm done with that. I've had a couple accidents. I'm going to take care of my body.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. This morning, I was coaching a client who's wondering if he should buy $1 million business. He's like, I think I want to buy it. And I don't think it's the time for him to be more daring right now. He's got, he's building a house. He's just had his 4th child. He's got a company that's already breaking record sales every month. He's already got so much going on. I don't get the sense that it's time for him to take on more and be more daring. I want him to hire a personal assistant. I want him to get his routines going where he's meditating every morning by the river. That's what I want for him. So different stages of life.
Well, so I'm going to ask a question from a playful devil's advocate perspective. Why? What if I was the you in the David Gray example where he's having a chat, with some friends around, and I wanted to communicate with him, and I was afraid to. What would you say to me if I said, like, you're my buddy, you're nearby, I walk away, and you say, well, did you talk to him? I said, no. And you said, well, why the hell not? And I said, well, because I'm caring for myself. I don't think that this is the time to be daring. I'm just caring for myself because it gave me anxiety. So I'm caring for myself. So
I would say if you've approached 4 John Grays this month and you really feel like it's just time to stop pushing, then sure, I buy it.
Okay.
But if you're just doing it because you're scared, then I call bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's going to be that caring for you to not just go up and share with someone that you're a fan and you admire his work. Like that's probably So yeah.
Talk about the but going back to the soaring 10,000 feet over the Himalayas, that must be a pretty spectacular thing. Well, you said it has you. I can't remember exactly. I said it a minute ago, but it gives you a different perspective where. You see life
differently. Well, it's an amazing thing to step off a mountain and go up.
Wow.
Like that's a crazy experience. And I went up to 10,000 feet above sea level under a storm cloud. And one of my biggest insights from flying and that experience was, why the hell was I doing this alone and without guidance? Because there must have been
you were hang gliding in the Himalayas alone?
Yeah, I was solo. And I had left the group and I didn't have an instructor. I was at the point where I was allowed to go without an instructor.
Okay.
So I had a radio, but no one to talk to on the radio. And there must have been 15 decision points where I was wondering, will this kill me?
Wow.
Like, can I go over there, or is that a stupid move? I really wasn't sure. And I realized later, there was no hero story in doing that alone. There was no profit in it. I could have had a guide while I was doing that to say, hey, you're doing great. Or, yeah, don't go over there. You really want to think twice about that. I could have had that guide and had so much more fun and had a much better predicted outcome, like better chance of living, if I'd had a guide.
So what was the belief operating within you at the moment when you decided to do it solo? That would be better? Like, what were you trying to prove?
I don't know that I was trying to do it alone. It was just that I did do it alone. Because a lot of people were. So I'm like, well, other people are doing it alone. I'll do it alone. It wasn't until I was up there after 20 decision points that I realized this is crazy. I could just have a guide on the phone. Yeah. So I realized I'm a coach and I believe in coaching. Why would I go and do this alone when I can have a coach with me, supporting me through it? So now I have a coach, and in Colombia, I did have an instructor on the line.
Okay. We only have a few more minutes left. There's a lot more I wanted to ask you about, though. We may have to have a round of two.
We might need a round two.
I think we might need a round two. But tell me about the month you spent with Byron Katie.
She has something called Turnaround House, where you go and you share a house with 10 people. You live in very close quarters, and it brings up every thought, every painful thought or belief you could imagine. And we did the work every day. And she'd come and sit with us for maybe an hour or two on most days and just kind of dig a bit deeper. It's a wonderful experience to be with.
For a month?
My favorite teacher. Yeah, that was a month.
Excuse me. You're cohabitating with 10 other people, 9 strangers?
Yep, strangers. Two of the guys that I was in a room with had anger management issues, and one of them threatened to kill me.
Oh, lovely.
And I think he could have done it too. But I had so many breakthroughs because Katie says the worst thing that can happen to you is a thought. And I believe now that any suffering I have and any suffering my clients have is not due to the circumstances. That's not what causes suffering. It's what we're believing. So I'm passionate about diving in there with my clients and helping them see what are they believing that's hurting them and busting that open so that they can have more peace and enjoyment.
Yeah, that's something that I think we should elaborate upon in our episode 2, for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Right on. You also mentioned in an email exchange, and we don't have time to get into this, so we'll put this also on the agenda for session 2, that you have your own personal experience with anxiety and depression, and that's something that's very important and dear to my heart. I have spent a lot of time. I used to be a licensed therapist. I also was a clinical social worker and spent a lot of my professional life working with people who experience anxiety and depression. I also have a really, really strong opinion about the corruption of big pharma and how many people in this world are over-medicated. And so is that something that you're willing to talk about? Can we put that on the agenda for session 2?
Yeah, I'd love to. It really knocked me on my ass when I got anxiety and depression, because I thought I could handle anything, and I could handle it spiritually and through diet and exercise. And I've been challenged for 20 years with the ups and downs, and I've learned how to make my peace with it and how to live with it. So I'd be
okay. Yeah, please, let's do that if you're willing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a promise?
Yes, that's a promise.
So I like that little pause right there. Right.
Yep.
I asked you, can you give me your word? And you closed your eyes, you looked up, and then you said yes.
Yep.
So that I can tell by your body language that's a mindful yes.
Yeah. Am I willing to commit to that? Yes.
Yeah. You paused. You said, yeah, that's great. There you go. Nice. Good modeling right there, dude. Way to walk your talk.
Yeah. So I know we've got to wrap this up. Can I make an offer to your listeners?
Please do.
Yeah, I would. If you are committed to change, you love a lot of your life, and you want to know how can you be playing better in life and business, then I'd love to chat with you. And what I do is I offer a session, goes for about 45 minutes with people who qualify. And here's how you qualify. You've got to have a track record of success in business. So you're probably making at least $200,000 a year. And you're action oriented. You like taking action in service of getting to where you want to be. And if you want to do a planning session with me, I'm happy to do it. I don't charge for it. It's because this is how I find the right people to work with long term. And if you want to take the plan and implement it yourself, do it with my blessing. Let me know how it goes. And if you love the plan and you want support in implementing it, then we can talk about working together. That's
incredibly generous. And that's beautiful. So, and then how do they reach you?
Just go to the website, playforreal.life.
Playforreal.life.
Yeah, .life with an F.
Yeah, that's
playforreal.life. Go there and click on request a session, and I'd love to chat with you, and we can.
So they'll go to Play for Life, request a session, and then just say, "Hey, I heard you on Chris Doris's Tough Talks."
Playforreal.life, and mention in the comments that you
okay, that's
heard
great.
About them here.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And thank you for time and for this was really fun, man. I mean, it was powerful and fun, which I think is a badass combo platter.
Yes, thank you. Someone once said that the work I do, or actually introduced me as deep and playful. And I thought, what a great combination. Those two things meet. Let's play that.
Right on, dude. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, David Wood, appreciate you, man. We will to be continued.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Okay. Take care.